I think I'm being possessed, and here's why. So I went on this archaeological dig with my class, and normally I wear gloves and have the tendency not to touch anything because all my life I've been empathic. So usually when I touch something that is ancient or old, you know, I get flashes of where it came from, like what was going on around it, and different little things come from each touch of these different items. So, in this particular day, I, out of curiosity, touched a relic that had been recently excavated, and something told me in my head to touch it. Now, all my life, being empathic and having psychic abilities, I get certain urges and I can't necessarily shake them until I actually do the thing that is being requested of me. So, this particular box was excavated out of an Egyptian tomb. It was very interesting because it had a whole bunch of circles and lines. It looked very intricately carved. It was very detailed. But the weird thing was the box was black and the carvings and everything were kind of etched in gold. Um, no one could read the box, none of the interpreters, no one. So, me being me and having this sense of urgency to touch it, felt that maybe I could explain what this box was by simply touching it and finding out a little information from its past. So I reached out, and just the presence of air around it felt ice cold, which should have been a sign and hindered me from touching it, but it didn't. If anything, it made me even more curious. So I reached out and I put my hand on it. Immediately, I began to get different flashes of what was going on at the time and what was happening. And all of that was well and good. When I woke up, on the other hand, I was in the hospital. Looked up the IVs. The doctors were saying that I had got heat stroke and I fainted. What seemed like mere minutes to me had been days. My parents had flew in to make sure that I was okay. And that's when I realized that my hand had these dark black veins kind of scratching up from my fingers, slowly creeping up to my forearm and elbow. The doctor said they were signs of dehydration. I had never seen dehydration manifest like this. So they kept me on IV. Nothing changed. The dark veins continued to creep up my arm. The doctor said there wasn't any threat. There didn't seem to be any infection. There was no place that showed that I was hurt. So after keeping me for observation for almost 2 weeks, poking me, prodding me, drawing blood, all of a sudden the veins just went away. All the dark lines just vanished, or at least that's what I thought. Upon them vanishing, the hospital said I had a clean bill of health and I can go home. So, mom and dad decided to fly me back to New York, where I was going to continue my studies and, pretty much just live out my life in utter lock and key because apparently I don't have the common sense to hydrate myself. And my parents felt that I was not capable enough to be out on my own at this time. So we went to board the plane, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I felt kind of nauseous and sick. I had my long sleeve coat on because I heard the plane was going to be cold because it was such a long flight. I went to the bathroom, I washed my face, and upon washing my face, I looked in the mirror and saw that there was a black, veiny wiggly thing in my left eye. I blinked a couple of times and then it disappeared. I told myself it was just a byproduct of the dehydration. I was hallucinating. It wasn't real. I don't have anything to worry about. I took deep breaths. I centered myself and I went and sat between my parents and just tried to calm my nerves and focus. Halfway through the flight, my skin started to crawl. I felt as if something was burning its way up my arm. I grabbed my sleeve and my mom wanted to know what was happening. She pulled up my sleeve and there they were, the black veins creeping back up my arm. At this point, they were up past my elbow. We stayed calm till we got home. We got off the plane. They had an ambulance come and pick me up. That rushed me off to the hospital. In the hospital, once again, they disappeared. The doctor said it was probably just the altitude making my veins protrude a little bit more than normal, which was great. It calmed my nerves. They discharged me, went home, and, pretty much rested up. I was jet lagged, stressed, and just did not know how to deal. Upon my head hitting the pillow, I went into an automatic dream state. It was so vivid. It made so much stress arise in my soul. It started off as a baby, a little girl, a princess with a dark soul. Many a wet nurse lost parts of their flesh while trying to feed this child. From birth, it almost seemed as if she hungered for flesh and blood. She went through so many wet nurses by removing areolas and nipples during feeding. And as she grew, her hunger for flesh and blood got worse. She would chew away the fingers of her staff, of those who care she was in, and they would do absolutely nothing about it because she was a princess. She continued on this way until she was 14, when she finally went too far and the staff and the servants brutally murdered her. As there was no one to avenge her, they elected a new princess, per se. Not really elected. They placed a new princess and called the girl her same name, while meanwhile cremating her body and instilling it in its case that I had the unfortunateness of touching. And this thing that has found itself in my body was made aware to me through this dream that now this child, Emostefa, is inhabiting my body little by little. And those veins that keep showing in my arm, creeping its way up, is slowly trying to take over my being so that she could once again walk this world and devour unexpecting individuals. I woke up from the dream almost bawling my eyes out in fear, trying to find a way to stop this, because even though it was a vivid dream, it was very much so lucid. I was very much so aware that it was a dream. Not only was it a dream, it was a look into the past. It was a look into what I had touched and allowed to fester in my body. And now I need to figure out how to stop her and her evil ways from polluting my vessel, from taking over my being and utterly shutting me in or pushing me out. I hope there is a way for me to stop her. I hope that I can save the world from this devourer, and that I am not the reason why she is now going to be free to roam the earth. I will continue to look for a way to stop her until I can no longer control either my mind or my body.